Michael Jackson is one of the best singers in the history of American music. This week I tried to do his daily vocal warm-up. Will his vocal routine transform my voice, and should you even try it? Let's find out. Ooh, let's go! So first, in case you've been living under a rock, Michael Jackson was an American singer, songwriter, and dancer, dubbed the King of Pop. He's regarded as one of the most significant cultural figures of the 20th century. He had a 4-decade career, sold over 400 million records worldwide, and he had 13 Billboard Hot 100 #1 singles. But something that you might not know about Michael Jackson was that he was actually an avid student of voice, and he actually took daily voice lessons, oftentimes up to 3 vocal lessons a day with vocal coach Seth. But unlike a lot of other singers that keep their vocal warm-ups and their routines a secret, we actually have a recording of Michael Jackson doing his daily vocal warm-up with Seth. This recording is from 1994 when he was on tour. So I first heard about this recording from one of my voice teachers, Gene Raymond, who told me that this recording was accidentally left behind in Michael's hotel room when he was on tour, and the housekeeping staff found it, realized what it was, realized how valuable it was, and decided to sell it. Now, I personally have a little bit of a hard time believing that story just because I feel like the Jackson family probably would have had it taken down many times by now, but you can find this warm-up all over YouTube. Now, before we actually get into the warm-up, let's look at the routine itself. First, I think it's important to note that Michael Jackson was actually doing this warm-up 3 times a day.
And I used to vocalize him on tour 3 times a day. 12 to 1, 4 to 4:30, and 8:15 to 8:30 before he went on. If he was extravagant one afternoon, I'd put him back in and tell him where the mistakes were, tell him where not to do it, and he would go back and he would, revitalize his connection, and bingo, off he'd go.
But before we get into my results, let's actually take a look at the way that Seth structured the voice lesson and kind of some of the surprising things that I found out about Michael's voice by actually doing his vocal warm-up. Now, the first thing that we have to note about this warm-up is just how many exercises there are in it. Seth gives Michael a mind-boggling 27 exercises in 25 minutes. And if your math is as bad as mine, you'll still probably be able to tell that that's more than 1 exercise per minute. So it goes without saying that Seth moves very, very fast in this lesson. He's so fast! One of the things that's interesting about this warm-up is what's missing. We're actually missing some of the kind of most well-known speech-level singing exercises, like the gee and the nay. There's actually no BRATTY exercises in this warm-up at all, which is very interesting because Seth was very well known for giving that BRATTY nay 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 to a lot of singers. Another interesting thing to note about this warm-up is that it's all legato. There's actually very, very little in the way of consonants that Seth gives Michael to hold on to all the notes that he's supposed to sing. So rather than having Michael sing like a no, 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 he has him singing oh, oh, Now, I should point out that singing without consonants is way, way harder. And that's one of the interesting things about this warm-up is just how challenging it really is. But one of the most interesting things about this lesson to me is just how flexible and loose Seth is with Michael's singing. There are many, many, many exercises where, Seth will ask Michael to sing an ah vowel or something. And lo and behold, Michael changes it to an or an ah vowel instead. And Seth just lets it pass. He doesn't even care. He just lets him keep doing his thing. I should probably point out that this is very different from my own style of teaching singers where, Seth is really prioritizing speed over accuracy. Sometimes I'll just work with 4 or even 5 exercises with a specific singer that I know are really going to do the trick, and I'll be very, very adamant that they perfect those before moving on to something else. Probably the most shocking thing about hearing Seth give this lesson to Michael is that it's very, very obvious that Seth is not a better singer than Michael Jackson. I mean, this should go without saying, right? But there are certain people in the vocal coaching community that would have you believe that your vocal coach better be a better singer than you are and not have any issues or any problems with their voice. You don't have to be a better singer than your student, you just have to know how to guide them. Okay, now that we've talked about my observations about Seth in this lesson in the structure, let's actually talk about my observations of Michael Jackson's singing. The first thing to say is that Michael Jackson's pitch in this lesson is excellent. His accuracy is just amazing. He's so on pitch. Singing on pitch is one of the biggest things that I work on with my singers, and it's just astonishing to hear how on pitch Michael is with every note that he sings in every scale. One of the other absolutely shocking things about this lesson is that you can actually hear Michael has some pitch breaks as he sings from low to high, especially on the lip trills in the very beginning. You hear him very clearly have a break in his voice. We should also talk about how Michael Jackson actually sings low notes in this lesson, which is absolutely astounding. I've never heard him sing anything probably below C3, and he's getting down to some really low notes in this lesson. Yep, nothing there. One of the most distinctive things about this lesson and listening to Michael do it is his vibrato. Love his vibrato at the end. If you just picked up in the middle of any random exercise, it probably could be anybody singing those notes. But at the very end, you hear that really trademark, super fast, kind of breathy vibrato that Jackson has. I mentioned earlier that one of the biggest things that I'm hearing that Michael's struggling with in this lesson is that he's squeezing and getting louder at the top. He gets louder at the top too. And I think that this is just such a cool thing about recordings of lessons being preserved like this, is that you can hear that these famous singers, no matter how famous they are, they're still human. They're not superhuman. They're still dealing with issues to work on with their voice, and they still need to solve those things. Now, as far as results of actually performing this, I went ahead and recorded some thoughts right after I completed the exercise. Okay, I just finished Michael Jackson's daily warm-up, and man, my voice feels really warm. I feel kind of like I could sing anything, and I feel like I could sing anything well, which is strange for me. Like, my voice feels super clear, but my voice also feels really tired. Like, I feel like I could kind of sing whatever I want to, but I don't feel like I could sing it for very long. My voice just feels very agile, feels very open right now, but it was so freaking fast. One thing that surprised me about the warm-ups was how Michael would increase the volume a lot as he went up higher, which is typically a bad habit. It is amazing to me that Michael Jackson did this 3 times a day when he was on tour. I mean, if you're doing this 3 times a day, you are just a rock star. Like, singing is your life. I could see how a beginning singer would find this lesson on YouTube and think that it's a gold mine. I mean, after all, Seth was charging like $500 an hour for a lesson way back in the 90s, so just imagine how valuable that is today. But I actually had a student that found this warm-up when I showed it to him, and instead of doing his daily vocal warm-up, which I gave to him and was customized for his voice, he actually just worked with the Michael Jackson warm-up every day. Well, after about a week of doing that, he lost his voice for about a whole week and was convinced that he was never going to get it back, until I started showing him his mistake. There is no one-size-fits-all vocal warm-up. Sure, there are common techniques, but every singer needs something different and needs different exercises. And truthfully, if you work on this really hard and you don't know what you're doing, you could very easily hurt yourself like my student did. Instead, you need to work with vocal warm-ups that are designed to fit your voice, like these here.